and welcome to the review segment of the show. My name is ALORMASOR. I'm sitting in for Kwame Usudan, so it's always a pleasure to be here. It's a Monday, the first day of the week, with renewed hopes, with renewed aspirations, with a renewed spirit. We hope that we are able to achieve our goals. We are here as usual to do this for God and country. This is Pan-African Television, and of course this is the newspaper review segment of Good Morning Africa, coming to you live from our studios at number 48 Swanika Street in Abelinkwe. Also in 46 other African countries, we are being watched live and clear, and also on the internet. You can connect with us at facebook.com/Pan-African Television. Make sure you are a part of the conversation. I'll always urge you to do so. Make sure you send us your messages. I'll be more than glad to read them as the show progresses. There are a number of topics that we have tabled for this morning's discourse. Let me run you through them. West African Leaders Summit opens as coup hits countries form alliance. The Daily Guide newspaper, page 5, has captured this one. Media encounter, our launch renewed fight against corruption. Mahama vows. The Daily Analyst newspaper, 595 cases backlog. Chief Justice justifies additional justices. AG GBA in support. The Daily Graphic front page has got this one. Accra ranked 7th most expensive city to live in Africa. Right, so these are the topics that we have found conversation or discussion worthy on the show today. Once again, I'll implore you to be a part of the conversation. As you can see on your screen, that is the text line 0559 919 802. 0559 919 802. Make sure you leave us a message. I'll read them. Right, this morning I've been joined by Dr. Ramsey Enusa. Dr. Ramsey is a medical doctor, but also he has a passion for politics. He's a member of the Movement for Change. He communicates for them. Doc, good morning. I trust you're fine.
Good morning, Bless. I'm doing well. I would like to say a very good morning to my senior most colleague, Honorable Alex Ebefia, and to the good people of Ghana, and to our leader and the founder of the Movement for Change, Honorable Alan Kojo-Tramante. And let me also express my wishes PEC candidates who are just about taking their exams. And on behalf of our leader, Honorable Alan Kojo-Tramante, and the membership of the Movement for Change, we would like to wish them a very, very successful exam, and we hope that the outcome will be positive.
Great. Also, Honorable Alexander Percival Segbefia. I think it's high time Honorable told me his ever name. I'm sure he has one.
Ow.
Oh, the Melasiu.
Ow. They just use my day name, Kobla.
Kobla. Togbi Kobla, the first. As you can see, he's clad in his northern apparel. It's high time you got him a Dagomba wife. He says by now he should be having about 3.
So long as my wife is not working, that's okay.
Honorable, good morning.
Good morning to you.
It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
And good morning to your viewers and listeners, and to my co-panelist, Doc, and our third panelist to join us shortly. Let's have a good week and month, so to speak.
Yes, we hope so. We hope so. Right. Please, if the technicians are watching, kindly come in studio and come and mic Awood Ishak. He's here. So please come mic him so that he joins the panel. Then I can officially introduce him. He has swindled me twice in a row, but I'll let that slide because he's my big brother and I understand the circumstances. But without further ado, we'll get into our first conversation for the morning. It's a story that the Daily Guide newspaper has captured. West Africa Leaders Summit opens as coup hits countries form alliance. A West African Leaders Summit has opened a day after the military rulers of Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger forged a new alliance, severing ties with the Economic Community of West African States, that's Ecowas. The Ecowas summit is being hosted in the Nigerian capital, Abuja, after several West African leaders called for a resumption of dialogue with the 3 coup-hit Sahel countries, which signed a new defense pact on Saturday during a summit of their own in Niamey, the capital of Niger. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger announced the pact known as the Alliance of Sahel States last September. It allows them to cooperate in the event of armed rebellion or external aggression. The three countries withdrew from Ecowas in January after the regional bloc's tough stand against the coups. Reporting from Abuja, Al Jazeera's Ahmed Idris said the timing of Saturday's announcement by the Sahel Alliance was aimed at showing that the three countries can do without the regional bloc. But some analysts say Mali and Niger in particular could face difficulties if all member countries of ECOWAS decide to isolate the two landlocked countries. He said, right now, the military leaders of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger seem to have momentum on their side, and they are scouting the global community for support. ECOWAS has a lot of work ahead before it can bring these three countries back into the fold, if at all they agree to do that. This is a conversation that we've been having for over a year now. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger, they have decided to wash their hands of ECOWAS. We've been asking questions about what it will take for these three countries to return to the regional bloc, as to whether or not their leaders, all of whom are military leaders, would agree to any form of reunion with ECOWAS. We cannot tell. But the issues are loud and clear that these people are very unhappy, especially regarding the tough sanctions that have been meted out to them by the regional bloc. And so they feel hard done by and have decided to, if I should use that word, they've decided to secede from ECOWAS, which is the regional bloc. I'll start the conversation with Honorable Segbefia.
Once again, good morning, and good morning to Ishak. I thought you were going to introduce him before I spoke.
Hey, Mr. Ishak. Mr. Ishak, I'm fighting with him low-key, but...
Blessing, you've not been fair to me.
You've not been fair to me too.
No. I'm your ardent panelist.
Yes.
You know,
I understand the situation.
Even when you call me at a short notice, I come.
Yes.
So when you ask me to come and I give you...
But when I give you long notice, when I give you long notice, I
thought that you were even going to condole with me on the program.
No, of course.
The last time I told you I have lost my cousin.
Of course.
Yeah, instead of you to be sending condolences.
I did that yesterday.
You are berating me. No, I mean on set.
On set, well... That's also true. That is also true. So it's a tough one.
All is good.
Yes, it's a really tough one. But I'm sure that the strong person that I know you are dealing with it, especially going into this elections of the PNC. When is it coming off though? It's taking.
We are commencing our constituency conferences this weekend.
This weekend, and so
on the 10th. Of August, we will do our regional conferences.
Okay.
Then on the 31st of August, we will do our national congress.
That's just about 3 months to elections.
Well, under the circumstances, we couldn't have done anything. You know that we were in court. And as for court proceedings, once they continue to linger, you can't do anything at all. The matter is determined. So.
But at least, at least there's a clear path now. Yeah, so, we continue to wish you the best in your attempt to become the General Secretary of the People's National Congress.
Inshallah, I shall be.
Right. Honorable Segbefia, kindly proceed.
Good morning to you, Ishak. You're welcome. And condolences on your loss. ECOWAS. I think that it's a very interesting development. We have already known that the three had already decided individually to be pulling out. What has happened now is that they've more or less come together and said, we are no longer part, we are forming our own alliance. And therefore now you just don't deal with, it helps ECOWAS in a way because you don't have to necessarily deal with individual countries per se. You now have to deal with the alliance and bring them on board as it is. And I think that ECOWAS has an uphill task. I think some of the utterances and rhetoric that went on when incidents began to happen doesn't help Ecowas. And but I've come to the conclusion that in the face of international politics, maybe perhaps they had no choice. And when you look at what is happening in those countries, no matter how you want to see it, coup d'etats are knocking at their own doors. So there was no way they were ever going to condone or try and recognize these particular three countries. I think the penny is slowly dropping that it's not that coup d'etats are good, but the treatment of people in countries can reach a boiling point. And if it gets to that point, then actions will be taken which writing on pieces of paper as to what is right or wrong doesn't matter. People now express their views and then decide that, look, enough is enough. You pray, if you are on the other side, that the people who have taken charge are not competent or do not know what they are about. That does not seem to be the case
at all.
You are seeing a certain level of leadership from military leaders, which is almost like, oh, okay, so this can be done. They actually get their act together. A singular act in Niger of saying, you can't take our mineral resource at this price. We are now going to sell it to you at the world market price, has totally changed their GDP overnight. And so you ask, what happened when they had a civilian government and a military government has just been able to do it overnight and are now looking at how to progress their country and help their people. Let's be clear. You cannot hide behind democracy to continue exploiting people. That's all that's. You have been exploiting African countries all this time, and all they are saying is, give us our due. And on the face of it, it appears that because of democracy and the way we run our systems, we've had leaders who have allowed themselves to be used in a particular way and to the detriment of their people. Now they are seeing military juntas who are now doing what the people want. Historically, however, it's been clear that if, except for a few like Thomas Sankara, up to a point J.J. Rawlings, and a few others, military rulers quickly become bad politicians. So they should lay a foundation. I agree on that. But they should also find a way to write constitutions that help their country and see a way to going back to democracy. Because at some point, even when the leader is good, unless he lays a foundation like Lee Kuan Yew, is it Lee Kuan Yew? Singapore. Yeah. Yes. Who laid such fantastic foundation for his people. He was a military ruler, by the way. And put them in a position where things happen. If you have leaders like that, then your country grows. And when they even stay long, by the time they have gone, certain fundamental principles are put in place. The history of Africa does not show that. So we really have to find a way to democracy. But as to whether ECOWAS can convince them to come back in light of this thing, if you are not careful, it may be a protracted negotiation. And they will be out there. And the longer they are out there, the likelihood that others can join them also exists.
Yeah.
So if ECOWAS does not sit and change its own rules and change the way in which it's dealing, they will have a difficulty. And that's what I have to say. But I also want to add finally that the bigger the better.
Yeah.
So even to have ECOWAS split into two, for me, does not help. You've seen how Britain is suffering when they left
Brexit, yeah,
the EU. And so there are benefits of being bigger rather than thinking I'll go solo. The advantage is there are three of them. but their strengths, economically, politically, are different. So coming back into ECOWAS, or ECOWAS looking at its rule and bringing everybody on board, I think is the way forward. But it's an uphill task. And everybody must now sit up and smell the coffee.
Right. On that note, let me come to you, Dr. Ramsey.
Yes, please. A very good morning once more. I am seen to take the humble pill as one of the ardent critics of Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso in terms of what happened as far as the coup d'etat is concerned. But today, we've realized that these leaders, especially that of Niger, the General Tiani, has reoriented his economy, has, as Honorable Alex Sebefia reiterated, he ordered the French to pay more for their uranium reserves. And today, Niger is the sixth largest, the sixth fastest growing economy in Africa and one of the fastest growing economies in the world. So, as we've seen, bless, Africa has been coupled by what scholars call the paradox of plenty, that we have been a resource-rich continent, right? But then, if you look at the livelihood of the people, the wealth of the country, it's not reflected. And this is as a result of failed leadership, which is contaminous with ineffective governance system. And bless, ECOWAS as it is now has to re-amend its acts because its members have different divergent national interests currently as we speak. We've seen that there are a lot of political interferences in the activity of ECOWAS and greatly the interference of foreign powers. And you realize that ECOWAS has now become a Cold War front between the West and the Communist alliance of China and then Russia, which today it's clear that Mali and Guinea and also Burkina Faso are enjoying some goodies from Russia in supporting their fight against the insurgency in the Sahel region, right? And you've also realized that the Malian government is also paying the mercenary group of the Russian government, the Wagner group. And you've seen clearly how they've been able to mitigate some of the terrorist risk in their region, bless. And so I think that it is indeed a sad phenomenon happening in our region. We need to negotiate with them. We need to reduce sanctions, especially after we've suffered gravely from the effects of COVID-19, right? And as economies are now gradually recovering, I think that it will be unfair and it will be harsh that we continue with these painful economic sanctions to these leaders. And of course, bless, these coups that have happened, I am not for this form of governance, government run by a military junta by virtue of coming into power using the method of the gun or the coup d'etat. I am against that. I am pro-democracy. But you realize that it is justifiable because we've seen time and time again politicians in Africa, right, use a constitution to manipulate electoral processes and also do not really meet the needs, the basic needs and desires of their people.
Yeah.
And so it's justifiable. And today, Niger is clearly showing the way. And that is why one of the great policies under the Great Transformational Plan of Honorable Alain Kodo Tramantin, which would be the game changer in how we aim more in our natural resource endowment, is that he stipulated clearly in his great transformational plan that 60% of Ghana's natural resources exports would have to be processed locally. And so that is a game changer. Currently, we are exporting our natural resources in a raw form, and there's little to no value addition. And you can imagine how much jobs it will create for the teeming youth of this country if we are able to ensure that we have a policy and binding by law for these mining companies to add value to about 60% of what they extract from our earth. And so, bless. I hope that Ecowas would come together, would also not get certain pressures from the West, because time and time again, the West has been seen not to care about us, but what we have and what they can extract from us. We are Africans. We need to instill that discipline of Pan-Africanism, right, and cohesion amongst each other, so that collectively we can fight these foreign influences that do not really mean well for our people. And so ECOWAS being divided is not good for our regional integration. They need to re-amend their charter to fit the current geo and political situation that we are faced with. Right? And I hope that if they are able to mitigate the risk of political interferences, especially from our foreign partners, and also tailor down policies to meet the divergent national interests of each and every member state, I think that it will serve a better good. And lastly, the issue of security. Climate change is one of the contributing factors to the insecurity of our region, because you realize that the Sahel region is becoming hotter and hotter and drier and drier. And these countries that produce more of these greenhouse gases are not paying their fair quota as far as the Paris Climate Accord is concerned, and supporting the developing world who are suffering as a result of their anthropogenic activities in their industrial hubs. You understand, bless? So we also, ECOWAS collectively needs to fight to support farmers in this regard. We need to create new policies to support farmers to mitigate the issue of climate change. As you know, a lot of these Sahelian people are farmers. They rear cattle and also other cash crops, right? And due to the phenomenon of climate change, they are not getting that rainfall. They are not getting enough water to be able to water their plants, to grow them. And this is contributing today, forming allegiances with these insurgents groups, because that's where they can also benefit, right? Because their crops are not selling, they are not even getting water to continue their farming activities, and they have to now join these insurgent groups to make money. And so collectively, if ECOWAS can come together and formulate policies to mitigate the anthropogenic activities of these industrial hubs in this Western world that contribute to the climate issues in our region, I think that it would also serve a better good. ECOWAS doesn't need arms. We don't need arms from these Western powers. All we need is equitable, egalitarian cooperation, right? And of course, their multinational companies would also have to engage with us on a fair grounds, as we've always been losing to them on the negotiation table. Right. And it's about time we change that.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Ramsey Yunusa. Mr. Ishaq.
Blessed. Good morning to your good self, good morning to Honorable, and good morning to my brother. I think this is our first time ever meeting on set. And good morning to our cherished viewers. Bless, I'm sure that as politicians, it will come across that we would be the biggest beneficiaries of stability and democratic transitions. And to that extent, we must lead the way to ensure that we experience that kind of stability. And for that matter, we must not be seen to be adherents of coup d'etats or military takeovers. But it appears to me now that democracy in Africa and within the sub-region, for that matter, is gradually becoming a kind of a death sentence to the masses. I think politicians are increasingly becoming so comfortable with the kind of politics we engage in, the politics that does not inure to the basic aspirations of the people for whom we are supposed to be leaders or politicians, for that matter. And it is not out of nothing that these days you see some of these military takeovers or coup d'etats enjoying massive popular support, because you can't run away from that. Because if the masses are against any coup d'etat of a sort, that coup d'etat cannot stand. Yeah. That regime cannot stand. It will crumble. At least in one or two instances, we have seen failed coup d'etats. That is because the people do not subscribe to those attempts to forcefully take over the reins of government. And what I want to say is that as much as we need to condemn in no uncertain terms the gradual creeping of military takeovers into our governance space in the sub-region, it is important for us to also do some kind of self-introspection as leaders and as politicians. And in doing that, we need to, as it were, put the interests of the people above our personal interests. You understand? And if we ever doubted the power of the people, what recently happened in Kenya should be a wake-up call. In the past few weeks, every other person you have listened to cannot but make reference to what happened in Kenya, because the people simply became fed up and they decided to take their destiny into their own hands. And if you ever doubted why people would do that, let's ask yourself, why does a man even commit suicide in the first place? We know that some people commit suicide because when you push the man to the point where he thinks that he has nothing to lose and he has nothing to live for, it is better for him to die than to continue to live. And so when you relate this to your personal circumstances, and then bit by bit your mindsets converge as a people, it is possible for some of these uprisings to occur. And you can have, as it were, military officers taking advantage of that groundswell of disappointment in the masses to lead the way in engaging in such military takeovers. And so for me, we know that Ecowas was not just formed because some people thought that we needed to have a body called Ecowas. Ecowas has a mandate. How has Ecowas discharged that mandate over time? I think that since 1975 or so that we formed Ecowas. And so from that time up to date, what has Ecowas been doing? What has been some of the notable achievements and notable interventions of Ecowas as far as not just the conduct of leadership is concerned, but in ensuring that the West African sub-region and its people, they have at least a certain modicum of basic living. You understand? The people we lead, they are not looking for too much. These are people who are looking for a place to lay their heads. They are not looking for houses in Trashako. They are not looking for mansions in East Legon or whatever. They just want to be able to afford rent. They just want to be able to afford basic food. They want to have water, potable drinking water, and all of that. And these things, have become so difficult to come by. And yet, we continue to see a yawning gap between this category of people and those who are supposed to be leading or those who are supposed to be serving them. That is the reason for which people will take advantage of the situation, whip sentiments in these people, take over governments forcefully, and enjoy their support. So ECOWAS ought to begin to be looking at some of these things. They should be able to call some of the democratically elected leaders to order and tell them that please do this, please do not do this. Otherwise, these are the consequences. Because the fact that we say that we are building our democracy, and for that matter, constitutionalism, which allows for the processes by which people can assume the reins of government, it does not mean that people should continue to fold their arms because you go somewhere. For instance, in our situation in Ghana today, a lot of people have come out to say that the 4-year presidential tenure is too short. I've heard President Kufuor say that. Alan Chiramantin is saying that it is short. I've heard so many other former presidents and aspiring presidents say that it is short. And so if the 4 years is short, and then you subject citizenry to such inhumane treatment, such suffering in a 4-year tenure, and you want to extend it to 5, 6, or 7 years, what does it tell you? It means that once we elect the wrong president or the wrong leader, for that period of time, we would have to endure the suffering until we go for another election. So we are hiding behind election tenures to continue to subject our people to suffering. I am not saying that democracy is bad, but we need to ensure that the people whom we are elected to serve, at least they get a certain moduko of basic living from the kind of services that we offer. You understand? That you would have, for instance, Bless, coming here today, I had to go and buy a bag of sachet water for 10 cedis. That is what I had to go and use in my washroom to be able to freshen up to come for this program. For the past 3 weeks, water has not, we have not seen water flow through any pipeline in the whole of the Fadama enclave. You understand? Those who are well-to-do, they are buying water from tankers. The rest of us, who are in the majority, are either getting water from unwholesome sources, or we would have to be using such unconventional means, like I said today. You understand? And so if you subject people to this kind of treatment, and this is in the heart of Accra, how much more the hinterlands? That is why people will lose confidence in our leaders, they get hopeless, and then they do whatever they would to ensure that at least they see a change. They do not care whether the change is going to get better or not. Damn the consequences.
Right, thank you very much, Awudu Ishak. Let me take time to read a few messages. I have some already. This one here says, the clarity of thought, appreciation of the issues, practical solutions, and excellent delivery by GM's media encounter yesterday means some people learn on the job and gather experience. Others will come and tell you they are just a mate waiting for the steer before they learn. John Mahama represents the hope that Ghana desperately needs, and the youth must not waver in our efforts to bring him back to power. Prekese Kwame Aristocrat Kaswa Old Barrier. Thank you for your message. Good morning, sir. Please, we need clocks up leadership to hear this. Some members in the Upper East region, led by all 15 district coordinating directors, defied the instructions and went ahead to open tender for Soko projects. They have gone ahead to admonish Upper West and Northeast region to do the same. So some confirmed on their various platforms that the East regions will follow their disobedience to defy the clock sack strike. How much motivation is bigger than their collective interest in the rest of their working lives? Are they hungrier than the closer leadership? Okay, thank you very much for your message. This one here says hi. You didn't add anything. Hi, I trust you're doing fine, and many thanks for joining us. Right. Also, Abdul Rahim Yusuf says, good morning. Good morning, Abdul Rahim. Thank you so much for connecting. Mami Ejewa says, yes, Alan's GTP is the game changer. Keep spreading the gospel. According to Alan John maintain a cash and job economy for all, especially the youth. Musa Abatwa says, former President Mahama's comprehensive policy alternative presents a robust roadmap for Ghana's progress. Reactivating the Media Development Fund will undoubtedly benefit those in the media space. Enhancing journalistic integrity and capacity, tackling corruption in government procurement is crucial, as no economy can thrive with rampant self-serving practices among public service holders. Thank you so much for your message. Komen Sapilatu says, I wish BC candidates all the best. Fellow Ghanaians, let's be careful. If you vote for JM, he will come and cancel free SHS. Let's say no to him. Regards to lawyer Michael Koyi Jr., aka Gabo, PC for Domekwa Benya. Thank you very much for your message. Good morning, bless. God bless Mother Ghana for the patience so far. The government in power would have faced the wrath of hungry and angry Ghanaians. Nanado and Baumia's government has failed this country like never before and beyond. We thank God for patience to soon have HEJDM come back to bring Ghana back to the road of growth. I watched JDM last night's media engagement and respected him the more. He dealt with questions posed to him like a technocrat in all sectors. His answers gave firm conviction to a hard-working media men and women that he is ready and can do the job. Greetings, my boss, Honorable Alex Segbefia. God bless you, sir. Isaac from Wager sent this one. Thank you, Isaac, for your message. On that note, we'll proceed to our next topic for conversation. Please keep on sending in your messages. I'll read them in the course of the show. Right. So yesterday, and lots of you have sent messages concerning this topic already. It appears all of you are itching, to hear this conversation on what transpired yesterday at Kempinski when former President John Dramani Mahama met the media. Unfortunately, I wasn't there, but of course, Pan-African Television was very well represented. Kwame Osudanso was there, so was Comrade Kwesi Pratt himself, and one of our reporters was there. But I've had the opportunity to also be in several of Mahama's engagements with other institutions. So it was only just yesterday that I couldn't be there, but I've been to several of them. I've heard him speak about his policies, and I'm sure the questions posed to him yesterday were all about that, exactly what he's going to do when given the nod come December 7, 2024. Were you there, Honorable Secretary?
No, I wasn't, for good reason, but I watched the whole thing.
You watched the entire
beginning right to the end.
Right. So I have my personal sentiments, which I'm not allowed to share because I'm not a panel member. Yeah,
but you're a Ghanaian, so.
But in the course of it, I can just chip in a few here and there. But your general assessment of yesterday's engagement, and people are already trying to bash the vice president for not opening up to such public scrutiny and then be asked questions by the media. He wants a debate with the former president. But your general assessment of yesterday's event?
I slept very well yesterday. They say time and time again, John Mahama is a good communicator, blah, blah, blah. But yesterday, he was in his element. And he delivered. The beauty of it was he opened himself up to any question. And the questions were diverse. The media did well. They didn't hold back on any questions. You could even tell there were some kind of below the belt punches. But he dealt with all of them succinctly. And anybody who listened yesterday will be no doubt that this man is on top of his game. His experience was exuding in the conversation, the questions and answers, and even his initial delivery. was proud to be an NDC member last night. John Mahama did us all proud. And we have a president in waiting. And it is also true that he will hit the ground running. Because there were things, and his memory is fantastic, things that people had even forgotten about, he was able to bring into the mix. The issue of NHIA, he cleared it. The pilot was started by NDC. They did the mutual insurance together. That is, Kufuor brought it. It was not, it was mutual insurance where it stayed in the district. It was Mills who expanded it and made it a complete national thing with the card. This is a fact that they never admit. But these are the facts. He spoke about free SHS. He made it clear that how can he abolish it when he started? He went with this and decided to do it progressively as the day schools opened. They came and decided to do Big Bang. That's why we have a double track system, because the implementation policy was bad. He made it all clear yesterday. So that clarity was on specific issues. Then this, the one that I was clapping was when he was asked about social interventions. What social interventions have NDC done? By the time he finished that question, from rural electrification to name it, district assembly funding, decentralization, he went through a raft before he even got to free SHS and what's it called, in terms of how we piloted and how he started. He didn't even get there. There was a raft of issues that he made clear. And I thought that the performance was exquisite. The energy levels were high, because this thing started at 8, and we were getting to 11 something before we actually were seeing the close of it. And he was on top of every issue. Even questions that were not answered, they were brought back. He answered them. Not because it was being avoided, but there were so many. Everybody wanted to speak and ask a question. The only question that didn't come, and I wish it had, was Sahel. For him to do damage to the people who have created that problem. But he has promised to do it again, and as often as is required. And you can, I mean, why would anybody, as there's a precedent, Nana Addo has decided that he won't do debates again. He didn't. So the precedent in this country is that we don't do debates anymore. Why is anybody asking John Mahama to debate Bawumia? For what? We see Bawumia as not speaking truth. So if you go and sit down with somebody who is spouting out things that are not true, unless you're able to go through every single one, are you doing question and answers for you to be answering his this one? Are you putting forward your case? And so long as the moderator is able to say this is not true, we won't accept this, it shouldn't be for his debaters to come and tell him that this, because a lot of the stuff he's saying are not accurate. So why do we go and sit there and debate such a person when he's only a mate and the driver himself didn't want to do debates? Yes. So after that, if I was asked, I would say, don't bother. Don't bother at all. Let this era come and pass. Then we'll look at it again. Because they don't even speak truth. And if you're in government and you're so sure of yourself and what your record is, and the lack of a debate shouldn't affect you. You just go and tell people what you have done. That's all. We are the ones who should be rushing for debate. We are not. We are not interested at all. Because we believe that the person involved will not speak truth to Ghanaians. And even as he goes around, he says the same. He was exposed blatantly by the schoolgirl, the nurse. spouted out all kinds of, oh, we've paid allowance, and the girl just asked one question. Please, I'm there 3 years. I haven't seen my allowance. So which allowance are you talking about?
There's a latest to that, actually.
You get it. And, oh, I'll go and check with finance now to see. But you have already said that you have been paying them.
Yeah.
So, you know, such a person, do you debate such a person? The person was clearly speaking untruths. So we are not saying it without examples of why we say he's not straightforward. And you go and debate such a person. To rather give him credibility, it's bad politics. Bad politics, and me, it's not my decision. But if I was asked, I would say no. Let us all go and tell our story to Ghanaians. And let Ghanaians make the decision whether they are interested or not. But yesterday was a day when I knew that Ghana can be saved from this mess. Because John Mahama is on top of issues. And he was giving solutions, practical solutions. They will ask him a question, and he would say, this issue about stadiums is a good one, but what we are going to inherit, it cannot be the most important priority. The easiest thing to say is, oh, when we come, we will build a first-class stadium. Yeah. But he didn't say that. He said, good idea. When we come, we have to look at it. But considering our economic position, it cannot be a priority. First, let's rescue the economy. Hey, Ghanaians, I got a phone call, and the first question the person said to me, and I agreed, is that how did we even allow Nana Addo to come before Mahama finishes them? That there's absolutely no comparison. And I said it's the power of understanding social media and media. Because you see, NDC's failing is we don't tell our story. And we don't sustain our story. So we have done so much. When he was talking about Rawlings era, rural electrification, the increase of water supply, etc., as social interventions, you could see a lot of people were, oh, we haven't forgotten. Hey, this is what has happened. NDC has actually done this. You could see people, the penny began to drop. And because he has institutional memory, don't forget that John Mahama was also a minister on the Rawlings era. He was a deputy minister of information and then became minister of information. And he has been a member of, so he's been right through it. So things that you see young people today struggling, or people not even young but inexperienced, he just went through one after the other. I was clapping. All leaders have problem dealing with this man's presentation. And I want to see what Bawumia is going to come and do now. Because there is no comparison. Even Nana Addo cannot debate John Mahama in terms of having this and saying what he has done or not done. He mentioned also the issue, a very interesting trick question about judges and their numbers. He didn't say anything. He just said, the way in which it was being, they wanted to do it was wrong.
Yeah.
It is not for the Chief Justice to do this thing. And I don't know whether it's a topic we are going to deal with.
Yes, it is.
Then I'll leave that for now. But there were so many questions that were asked, and more even. Look, at one point, our host, the host, Sami Jeff, he wanted to say, okay, this for this side, you come and be on the side so that I'll finish with you. Then he said, no, everybody should stay, because the queue now was becoming... Everybody wanted to have the engagement with the man. The writing is on the wall. Let us all go and back John Mahama. Let him come and begin to fix it. He is not coming promising, I'll do this, I'll do that. He's just putting things in parameter, and he's got the priorities and what he needs to do right. He was asked about Father for All. He said, I've exorcised the Father for All spirit from my system. He is not going to witch hunt, but he has made it clear that people must be answerable for their stewardship. That's all. So he dealt, Look, people who have time, who didn't watch it or haven't seen it, should go and get this thing and watch from beginning to end. And then ask yourself, were we fair to this man? They even asked him that 4 years, is it enough? And he explained why 4 years, what he intends to come and do, the kind of foundation he intends to lay. He's good. He talked about constitutional review. Key. Any leader who's not understood that we need to look at constitutional review has a problem. He mentioned it. That is going to be one of his key things he wants to leave behind in terms of legacy. So he understands that he's laying a foundation, and he's the best person to lay it because he has the experience. I know that there's not a lot of time, so if I want to talk on this topic, then we need to leave here. Right.
Mr. Ishak, did you watch?
No, of course I did.
You did. What was your takeaway?
Why would I?
As somebody who belongs to the as somebody who belongs to the People's National Convention, what about yesterday's engagement with the media struck you for it to say, oh, okay, this is laudable?
Well, blessed. You see, John Mahama, in the event that he becomes president, would not be addressed as president of the NDC. Just like how Akufo-Addo is not addressed as president of the NPP. We would address our president as president of the republic. We make up the republic. And we all know the very crucial and critical role that the media plays. And to the extent that we accept around this table, I am sure that if the media gets it wrong, we would get our politics wrong. We'll get our decisions wrong, and we will be plunged into the kind of catastrophe that currently we have been plunged into. In wanting to become president, Akufo-Addo, ably supported by Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, they relied heavily on propaganda within the media space. And they churn out a lot of things that deep down within they themselves, they knew that these were not doable. Or simply put, we were just simply hoodwinking the good people of Ghana because at all costs, someone had a dream to become president. It does not matter what legacy he leaves behind after becoming president. It must remain that there was once a man called Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo who had been president of Ghana. Otherwise, the kind of leadership we have seen in the past 7 years, 7 months of Akufo-Addo Bawumia regime, for me, has been inexplicable. So yesterday, or not just yesterday, when I think that this particular program had been advertised for more than 1 week. So when I saw the advert, I said that, well, I think it is good. It is good because it is through the media that we can expand the frontiers for citizens' participation in decision-making and in the political process. And that decision alone, to open himself up as an aspiring candidate for the position of president, and to allow for that kind of encounter, because bless, I cannot even recount the number of questions that were asked. A lot of people ask questions, and if you are very conversant with how the media operates in Ghana, from diverse backgrounds within the media landscape, you could not say that different exactly. You understand it? Yeah. And there was nothing choreographed about that particular program. And the decision to be bold enough to face the media when we know that any backlash in such an encounter would have dire consequences on the fortunes of the candidate going into the elections of 2024. That alone tells you that it portends something positive for all of us. Because the media ought to be a partner as far as our governance is concerned. And so for me, even without going into the content of what happened yesterday, that decision alone, the fact that this is something that was put together and it had come to pass, that one alone gave me a certain kind of joy and fulfillment, because it means that people are prepared to be accountable. Because if you fear accountability, you will not subject yourself to the media to be quizzed and to be questioned in the manner in which we saw yesternight. And that was a major takeaway for me as a budding politician and as a political actor. And so and if you begin to juxtapose that with the fact that, if I am not mistaken, even within the 4 years that Mr. Mahama was president, he had these media encounters as president. He allowed for the media to engage him, I think, for the entirety of his 4-year tenure, every year, annually. Yes, that's what I mean, annually. We have not seen that under Akufo-Addo. I think that he has done 1 or 2, and that ended it. You understand? And people have raised a number of questions in that regard. People continue to question why the president is not agreeing. And I think that in one instance, there was even a formal communique or something from Mr. Eugene Ayen addressing that particular concern being raised by the media. Why the president is not subjecting himself, especially that in his tenure, we have seen a number of landmark issues or scandals that require certain level of response from him personally as the president. And so if a candidate for the office of president decides to put together such a program, subject himself, clearly it sets him apart from the ruling regime. And I am not one of those persons who takes Bawumia serious when he says that he's just but a driver's mate. It's not about being, whether he's a driver's mate, whether he's the mechanic, whatever, he is part and parcel of the government. More so that he's attempting to leverage on the position he has occupied all this while to assume the position of president. And like Honorable rightly said, we all know that he has a very cunning way of addressing Ghanaians. I don't want to say he lies to us, far from that. But the candidate Akufo-Addo Bawumia ticket that we saw prior to 2017, and what we have seen them do within their tenure, tells you that it's not about what I can do, it's about what I can tell the people to win their sympathies. Sometimes out of ignorance, out of lack of information, or something of that sort, that will lead the people into giving us their mandate. And I am not sure that Bawumia can face this kind of audience that John Mahama faced. Because if what we see in the media every day is anything to go by, and if they allow for such a process to take place where the media would be allowed the free hand to ask any and every question at all, I'm not sure that Bawumia would be able to engage the media. And so I am not surprised that people would call for a similar thing on the other end, but it will not happen, because if it happens, I think that is going to be a disaster. But I would say that in trying to build a better Ghana for all of us, in trying to make Ghana better, in trying to evolve our politics in a manner that we place the interest and the aspirations of the masses at the forefront, we need to call for engagement like this. We need to implore every other person wanting to be president to open their doors and to engage the media, through which we could build a certain level of consensus. Because when you listen to somebody engage the media, another person engage the media, it affords the ordinary Ghanaian or the average Ghanaian voter to make an informed choice. And it is out of that informed choice that we could have better leadership that could better deliver in as far as our aspirations as a people is concerned.
Right. I'm doing a few messages, then I come to Dr. Ramsey. Tomla Mankranso says, I doff my hat for JM for his excellent presentation yesterday. He laid bare his vision for this nation to get it out of the abyss Bawumia and Anado have pushed this nation into. The 24-hour economy and experience are the game changers. Okay, thank you for your message. I'm Stephen from Kumasi. Please, morning to your panel. I'm not a politician, but our leaders should know that anything that happens in other African countries can happen in Ghana and even more. So they should be very mindful of their way of governance. Okay, thank you. Bless. It is only under this clueless and incompetent Nanado Bawumia government that chief executives would have 4 deputies. Never seen this in the annals of our democracy. MPP never again. Stephen from Kwambia sent this one. Thank you, Stephen. The election 2024 is the easiest election for Ghanaians to inform their decision making. It's simply another opportunity for Ghana to judge between the 16 years governance of both MPP and NDC since 1992. It's another referendum platform to choose between competent and incompetent, visionary and visionless. It's a referendum to decide between the 2 flag bearers, that is Dr. Bawumia and former President Mahama, who served well as vice president. It's another opportunity for Ghanaians to choose between an education minister who cancelled teacher and nurses allowance to an education minister who introduced free SHS and restored teacher and nurses allowance. Reject John and Jane to save this country from leadership crisis. Abdul Rahman Bako from Old Barrier. Thank you, Abdul Rahman, for your message. This one here also says, I am teacher Shamsu. Good morning to you and good morning to Honorable Alex for his brilliant submission. I'm watching live from Tamale. In fact, when I heard John Mahama yesterday, I felt that Ghana's economic woes would be gone. We only need to give him the mandate and Ghana will really bounce back. For you to know a truthful leader, look out for truth, transparency and dedication, and GM exhibits these features. Regards to Professor Hamza Adam, MP for Kumbungu constituency. All right, thank you for your message. Good morning to you, Bless, and esteemed guest. I'm watching live from Tamale. Yesterday's interaction with GM and the media was electrifying, a powerful exchange brimming with profound insights and bold visions. Very well articulatedly presented. In fact, I was carried away by his wisdom. After enduring 7 years of the MPP's governance, GM's engagement sparked immense joy within me. God bless the NDC, God bless GM, and may God continue to bless all Ghanaians. Ghana must be saved. Ghana deserves better. Seydou John Paul, former SRC President, Tamale Technical University. Bless. JM is a gift from God. The late President Jerry John Rawlings said some time ago that H.E. John Mahama is a president for the future. To bring back our country after the destruction of the MPP government must be paramount. Today, Ghana is serious with politicians and demand proper leadership. The stomach politicians cannot have their time. Again, he spoke very ready to deal with our woes. God bless and protect John and Jane. Perfect submission from Honorable Segbefia. Isaac from Weja sent this one. Thank you, Isaac. Okay. Good morning, Bless. I want Ghanaians to know that if their hope is in Baumia, I'm telling them that they are hopeless. He's telling Ghanaians that his incoming government will save Ghanaians from his current government. If he has something to do, he should do it now. Sir George Atobrosh, President of Eastern Okrom, Efia constituency. I'll read this last one and come to Dr. Ramsey. Okay. Good morning, Bless. Yesterday I saw respect, humility, and total humanity at the media engagement with JM. He talked and answered all the questions without a bit of arrogance, with his hands down, unlike some people we are managing till December. BB from Accra, right? Dr. Ramsey, let me come to you.
Yes. I have heard from all panelists seated here. And of course, I equally watched the media engagement yesterday, from its start to the finish. And what I can say is that, Bless, I am not inspired, first and foremost, as a young person. Because this is the same person that has been minister before. Even before he became minister, he has been assemblyman before. Rose to become vice president and then president. And so he has had the opportunity to govern this country before. Bless. Under the leadership of President Atta Mills of blessed memory, Ghana's economy was dubbed as one of the fastest growing economy, which was about 14% when we had oil coming in. When President Mahama took over the realms of affairs, unfortunately, he sank this economy from a rising 1 to 3.8% and then to the IMF. And so when I hear President Mahama respectfully say that he will transform this country when he gets the nod, I don't think that Ghanaians should buy into it. And that is the main reason that people like myself and other young people are aligning ourselves to the movement for change. That NDC is a known political polity in this country. They came into power through constitutional rule in 1992, democratic constitutional rule in 1992. Equally enjoyed 16 years of power, and then the MPP 16 years of power. Now, collectively, both parties have enjoyed 32 years of power. If we compare this 32 years to other countries, like Malaysia, like China, today I'm not sure we'll be talking about issues with access to water, especially in our urban areas, as my brother did posit here. Bless. And so President Mahama should save us the lip service. But of course, bless. Yesterday, it was all about, I will do this, I will do that, I will do this. But the how factor did not come into place. The MDC being in power for so long and having people that have served in different roles, till date, hasn't come out with their plan for Ghana. Equally the MPP. And we are just about 5 to 6 months to an election. And there's no plan from the NDC to tell Ghanaians how they will salvage the economic situation of Ghana. But fortunately for us, and as a new political movement, we have been able to show you a blueprint called the Great Transformational Plan on how we can be able to salvage the economic situation of this country. And it's not just by lip service, but the how factor. Bless. And so if Ghanaians would listen, and I know that they are listening, because a lot of Ghanaians have lost hope in the system. And the drivers we've had for so long are the drivers from the MPP and the NDC. And it is time we move away from these two dominant parties and bring on board a leader that can form a government of national unity. Bless. Due to the nature of our partisan politics and the polarization of the Ghanaian society that has been propagated by these two dominant parties, today we can't come together. Even though we have divergent political views, we can come together to see how best we can jaw and bring about a sustainable long-term developmental plan for this country. Honorable Alex Sebefia talked about constitutional reform. Honorable, NDC, under the government of His Excellency, the late President Johnny Evans Atta Mills, set up a committee, right, to go around the country and take some data as far as consensus building is concerned, to see how best they can reform the Constitution. And they brought about a white paper. President Mills started well, but of course, if indeed he was that of a good mentor to President Mahama, I'm sure President Mahama should have continued with that legacy. He should have continued and enforced that. It's not about, it's enforcement. Bless. If you have a white paper and you've been told about issues in our constitution, why didn't you enforce it? Why didn't you amend the constitution? And today he's talking about constitutional amendment. I don't think that we should take him serious. He cannot do it. He hasn't shown any edge when he was president to do it. So why then do we have to grant him the audience? Why do we have to give him the support to do it? Honorable Alan Kojo Tramantin has proposed fantastic ideas in how he will bring an inclusive government and, of course, a government of national unity. Currently, bless, Ghana runs a unicameral parliamentary system, right, that has been dominated by these two dominant parties, the MPP and the NDC. And anytime there is an agenda in parliament, there seems to be no interest of the nation or of the people. But of course, the political party's interest is apical in parliament. But Honorable Alan Kojo Tramantin has realized this phenomenon and is proposing that we transition from the unicameral parliamentary system to now a bicameral parliamentary system with legislative powers. And he would do away with the Council of State. He will abolish the Council of State in our enshrined in our Constitution, in the 1992 Constitution. And so this second chamber would not have political actors. It would not be a partisan chamber. That would create the balance in our society that has been plagued with the polarization of partisan politics. Bless. And so that is phenomenal, and that is what we should support. Because if we are always going to change between NDC and MPP for 8 years, nothing is going to improve in this country. If it would have been better, it would have been better since. Bless. But we are not seeing any development. If you look at the area of industrialization, under the leadership of Honorable Alan Kojo Tramantin, bless, Ghana currently has a capacity to manufacture 125,000 vehicles a year. None of these candidates have been able to attain that or achieve that. And he was just a minister who was even shortchanged with the budgetary allocation to his ministry, as compared to the abysmal NAPCO policy that government allocated 2.2 billion cedis, and they wasted that money. Honorable Alan Kojo Tramantin, since 2017 till the time he left office, had only 400 million Ghana cedis for the 1D1F project. But yet still, he was able to produce 160,000 direct and indirect jobs. Right? He was able to set up over 140 1D1F companies that are operational. Right? Bless. And of course, in the issue of fighting corruption, this man stands tall because he has never been corrupt. As the longest serving trade and industry minister, if you realize in 2019, a project came about and it was executed perfectly. Honorable Alan Kojo Tramantin, through the cooperation of Ghana Link and Unipass, introduced ICOMS, which at that time, there were a lot of loopholes in the revenue collections at our various ports, namely Tema and Takrady. But through the intervention of ICOMS, in less than 3 months, the revenue of our ports shot up from 12 billion to 16 billion. That was a progressive intervention by Honorable Alan Kojo Tramantin. So if I want to be honest here and compare all the candidates, Dr. Baumia, His Excellency the former President John Dramani Mahama, and Honorable Alan Kojo Tramantin, I don't think that none of them stand tall with the issue of corruption. And we've realized that, and under his great transformational plan, Bless, he is proposing that we should make sure that the OSP is revised and bring in an anti-corruption czar in place of the OSP, who will be independent, because the OSP derives his powers from the Attorney General's office, and you know that. And so if the OSP is under the Attorney General, there is no form of independence in the discharge of the duty of the OSP. And how the OSP is also appointed should also be considered. And that is why he's saying that by virtue of the second chamber that he is going to create, the second chamber would nominate people so that he can appoint out of that. Right. And that will not be on the basis of partisan affiliation, right? Because the second chamber would be a non-partisan chamber. Bless. And then we realize that there are so many legislations on corruption, which are sometimes ambiguous. The Constitution does not even define what corruption is, right? And so we would have to amend the 1992 Constitution to properly define corruption and then synchronize and rationalize all these legislations into one big legislation that tackles corruption once and for all. So that we will not be caught up with these ambiguous definitions and legislations that tackle corruption. Shraj, we realize that we have Shraj that is tackling corruption. We have Yoko that is tackling corruption. The police, of course, that is tackling corruption. The OSP that is also tackling corruption. So it seems like these independent bodies have overlapping mandates. And we need to create that synchrony and relieve certain state agencies from these legislation and have one body that can be specialized in tackling corruption under the anti-czar position that we want to introduce. Right. And then lastly, Bless, looking at the orientation of this economy, Bless, again and again and again. I'm glad that President Mahama admitted that being an import-oriented economy, we export our jobs. Ghana needs a long-term developmental plan, right, to tackle the kind of orientation our economy has been situated. Honorable Alan Kojo Tramantin is one of the most credible industrialists we've ever had in our political landscape. He has tailored down strategic anchor industries to be able to add more values to our natural resources, to increase our exports and reduce our imports. And none of these candidates have that credibility or that erudition to be able to churn out such an outcome.
Right. Thank you so much. Honorable Secretary has scribbled down a few things. I'm sure I'll give him the chance to tell us whatever he has written down. But before that, I'll take time to. I'm receiving a lot of messages this morning, so let me take time to acknowledge our cherished viewers, those of you watching from all corners of the world. We are extremely thankful for your time this morning. My name is Akwesi Abuaje from Kumasi, Ashtown. Nice show and keep it up, senior. Listening to GM yesterday shows that the duopoly takes us, the youth, for granted. I wonder what NAPO and DMB will also be doing. We are fed up with the rhetorics from these people. If you don't see any solution from DMB, Kenya will happen. Okay, thank you for your message. Salom is my name. Please tell the movement for change to stop that comparison between NDC and NPP. Is Alan not part of the mess that NPP caused to us? Why is it that they have a developmental plan? Their developmental plan was not introduced under the watch of Nanado Baumia administration. Okay, thank you, Salom, for your message. Bless, good morning, Bless. I've been listening to your program all the time, but one of the views of your panelists is not right. Why can you tell us to carefully and choose an able leader who he mentioned? Please, your message is not so clear. Kindly rewrite it and send to me. I promise I'll read it. Good morning. My name is Kanyiti from Tamale. Please, I'm pretty sure the rep for Movement for Change didn't watch John Mahama last night. Otherwise, he will not say John didn't provide the solutions as to how he's going to tackle Ghana's issues. He needs to watch the tape and humble himself to the responses. Indeed, JDM needs not present any plan according to your opinion. He has been very clear in what he intends to do. Lastly, comparing Alan to John is a non-starter. No one has seen Alan in the presidency. Therefore, you can't tag him as not corrupt comparative to JDM. Besides, Alan would have continued with the NPP, whom you are woefully discrediting, but for his failure to win the primary. Stop the propaganda. John Kanyiti from Tamale sent this one. Thank you, John, for a message. Bless. The Constitution Review Committee was truncated with when a member of this government took the matter to court. Stephen from Kwabinga sent this one. This one here also says, good morning, Bless, and good morning to your panelists, especially Dr. Alex Segbefia. Tell him that he is my role model. Yesterday, Mahama shut down NPP 2024 presidential plans. I challenge Baumia as a leader to follow suit. I think if we had Nana Baumia government for another 4 years, HIPIC will not even save us as a country. When filthy lies meet with arrogance, that will be the result. I will not in any way, in the exercise of my duty, say that I was only the driver's mate. Nana Jenopoku from the Silent Rock inside Binduri. Thank you. Good morning to the people of Binduri. We are extremely thankful for your time this morning. Still so many messages. I've not read the bulk of them, but let me come to Honorable Segbefia.
Thank you so much. I think that Doc Nusa Ramsey has not researched properly on the constitutional review. So let me educate him a bit. The Constitutional Review Commission was initiated by Professor Mills. That is accurate. When Professor Mills passed, the document had been presented and a white paper was created and sent and approved. What President Mahama did was to set up a constitutional implementation committee. When the Constitutional Implementation Committee was about to start its work, or in fact started its work, a citizen of the country took the whole process to court. The case stayed in court till 10 months to the next election, where, and the case was simply that the government did not have the power to go through constitutional review the way in which it did. The court finally ruled that it was constitutional and it could go ahead. But 10 months to an election, in terms of the fact that you needed to do referendums, etc., etc., it became clear that you can't start the process. So you have to wait till the new government comes in for it to be implemented. And so at the point at which the court case ended, we didn't have the time or the ability to implement what had been put together by John Mahama, namely the Constitutional Review Constitutional Implementation Committee. So the delay was a court case. Had nothing to do with government's political will. The political will has always been there in the NDC. And when in 2016 we lost the election, we thought that where we had reached, MPP was now just going to implement what had been put down, and it was never done. So the party to which he belonged, that is Alan Chemanting, when he was a minister, did nothing about implementing the constitutional review, and we were the ones who have pushed this. NDC, if constitutional review is something that anybody wants to talk about, NDC is the only party at this moment who can talk about it. When you even go into the issues of second chamber, to do all that, you need constitutional review. Even if they wanted to go down the road of, it's like, where in your, what have you mentioned constitutional review in your? I don't even know how much of it is in there. What are you going to do? Are you going to throw away what has been done? Or are you just going to review what is there? Or are you going to do a wholesale news change of reviewing the constitution again? So I think that as for the movement, they have, when it comes to constitutional review, they must come again. We are standing on a blueprint. Even that, we are looking at it because of various things that have happened in the recent past. The way judges are being dealt with, the way appointments are going through and through. And this question was even asked of John Mahama yesterday. The OSP, whatever you want to do about the OSP, it requires constitutional review. Because as the Constitution stands, it's only the Attorney General who has that power to do. So you have to still put whatever you are doing under the OSP, the Attorney General. That's why John Mahama said, look, I won't touch it. It's not the time. You just have to give the person the ability to operate by less executive interference. How can you have a government who brings in OSP? They bring in the first one, he's removed or he resigns. They bring in the second one, somebody has petitioned now that he must go. So work done, zero. And to do it properly, you need constitutional review. So that is also there. Then you cannot compare John Mahama's corruption record to Alan Chemanting. John Mahama has been a minister before Chemanting has been. John Mahama has been a vice president. Chemanting has never been a vice president. John Mahama has been a president. Chemanting has never been a president. None of them has been arrested or convicted of anything to do with the corruption. So whose record is better in terms of having longevity and record? You cannot compare the record of John Mahama's lack of corruption to that of Alan Chemanting either. They are both good citizens of the land. Let it rest there. But if you want to go and start saying that Alan is not corrupt, therefore implying that perhaps others are corrupt, you have to be careful. One, we are not in government, and people have had the opportunity to take John Mahama on if they wanted. He said it yesterday. Has he been taken on? Has anybody arrested him for anything? No. So, and he has held higher positions in government than Alan Chemanting. So, as far as I'm concerned, if that's the analysis or the basis that you are going down, then there's no issue. It lets PNC, when they come with their presidential candidates, be making some of those statements. Because none of the PNC hopefuls, and I'm surmising, have really been in government. So they are coming fresh. And therefore, you can do. But Alan Chemanting has been in government too, not once. He was in government from Kufuor's time to now. When this book came to, he was also in government. So he has also had so all the things you are saying apply to him to a certain extent. He's not a person who has not enjoyed the trappings of what is happening. And so the question is, what has he done when he was in MPP that today there's an attack on John Mahama? And I just want to say that the comparison is wrong. It cannot hold. Yes, he's a flag bearer now, but for the corruption, John Mahama is as clean as Alan Chamantin is clean. And he has held higher positions.
You can't compare both. We are clean. But you can't say, you can't extricate John Mahama from
what?
Corrupt activities.
Like what?
So, Bless, if you give me the time to also rebut her. It seems to me the NDC tries to confuse the understanding of the Ghanaian society. The current constitution that we hold today was introduced by the NDC.
Yes.
The 1992 constitution,
yes,
and the flaws in the constitution is as a result of the manner in which the NDC built consensus and then implemented the 1992 constitution. So I'm coming.
That is, you are rather misinterpreting.
But okay, so
rather misinterpreting.
But that's why, you know, there are reviews. For instance, the exigencies of the time,
yes,
in 1992 isn't the same now. A lot of things have changed. Even certain things that even if you listen to certain things that were crime in 1992, now some of them have changed. So it's the.
Unless you are going further. We are the pioneers of creating the constitution, but the constitution still remains a document that was given to us by the people of Ghana. It went through a process.
Yeah.
And the people of Ghana are the ones who have brought this constitution. Even though we always accuse the MPP that they boycotted the consultative arrangement, which is true.
I'm only talking about him referring to the flaws in it.
No,
and I'm saying
bless.
As time ticks by, many things would happen, and then there will be the need to revisit the constitution.
Of course. Yes.
And then effect some changes.
Absolutely.
So I think that was what necessitated the constitutional review in 2010 under the Mills administration. From the 9-member committee to look to that.
Absolutely.
The report. And then somebody decided to take it to court.
Bless, we all know.
Yeah.
Look at this current bill that was passed by Parliament.
Which of the bills?
The anti-LGBTQ bill.
Okay.
And then, of course, we know that there's a backdoor way of sabotaging the process, and it has been taken to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to buy into the NDC counter that, oh, we were the ones that really were there for the people to ensure that we review the constitution and also implement it, the recommendations of the committee. I'm not going to buy into that. They were the ones that created the 1992 constitution with the flaws in it. And the constitution was created in a way to protect President Rawlings and give him that absolute power. It was deliberately tailored like that to favor his democratic governance, to give him that absolute power, right? And of course, if you look at the constitution of Ghana, it is not very democratic, and that is why we're seeing the challenges that we're coupled with in our current political landscape, right? And of course, if you look at Article 70, the appointment of the independent constitutional bodies that has been given to the president has that sole mandate to appoint the heads of independent constitutional bodies. That today you realize that the president is appointing corrupt people and people that are of consequence to him in terms of the relations, because he is appointing his family members and persons from the parties that do not mean well for this country. And that is why today a lot of public institutions, especially our independent constitutional bodies, are not performing. And we're here to say that, oh, the NDC tried something and somebody took it to court. We shouldn't buy into that rhetoric. You understand? Somebody might take it to court. Yes, indeed, somebody took it to court. But do we know the motive behind that? No, I'm coming. Do we know the motive behind that? The motive behind that, you see, it's just like the anti-LGBTQ case. That no, it is similar, and there's always a political motive. So we're not going to buy into that. What I'm saying is that the 1992 Constitution was brought in by the NDC. They are the cause of the current problems that we face, because the MPP has shown clearly that they do not want to amend the Constitution. They are also enjoying it. You've enjoyed 16 years of this Constitution, and MPP has enjoyed 6 years of this Constitution, and we've not seen any amendments to it. So that's why we are saying that the Ghanaian society should believe in Honorable Alan Kojo Martin as that true leader that would amend the 1992 Constitution. And Honorable Alex Sebefia said something here, and which I want to really bring his attention to, that one of the themes underpinning the movement for change is that we need to have a constitutional review and reform in this country. So if Honorable Alex Sebefia is not privy to the great transformational plan, I will give him a copy so that. Okay, great, great.
Right, anyway. Right. Thank you so much. Yes.
You see, I actually didn't want to comment on this matter.
I noticed.
But the point is, the refrain has been that NDC is responsible for the architecture of our constitution. That is because the NPP and some other bodies like the GBA also boycotted the consultative process in the lead up to the promulgation of the 1992 constitution. But in the 13 years of the constitution, because if we promulgated a constitution in 1992, 8 years down the line, President Kufuor became president for 8 years. President Kufuor did absolutely nothing about that constitution. So why would we continue to heap blame? Why would we continue to heap blame on the NDC and the PNDC for our political goals as far as the constitution is concerned? You understand? We cannot continue to be blaming the NDC. The NPP had the opportunity, at least not once. But I want to fault President Kufuor because we have all read the role President Kufuor played, right, as far as the Danko Buzia tradition was concerned. And this is the Danko Buzia tradition that, as it were, that translated into the NPP as a political party. And if you got the opportunity to be president, you had lambasted the NDC for not giving us a constitution worth the salt. You got the opportunity, you did nothing about that particular constitution. And you think that any time the constitution has to be criticized, blame would always go to the NDC as a political party or as a tradition. I think that has not been fair. We should have a general consensus as a people that in promulgating our constitution, there were certain things that we got wrong. There's need for constitutional review. And I'm happy that my brother says that the great transformational plan of Alan Chamanton inculcates the issue of constitutional review. I think that we all agree that our constitution needs a certain tweaking. But the way and manner in which it has to be done, or those provisions that have to, as it were, be reviewed, has always been the bone of contention. But as for whether the constitution serves us the purpose that it is supposed to serve today, that has never been in doubt. So let us agree that yes, we need to do something about our constitution so that at least we will stop the blame game and be looking forward about what we can do as far as that problem that has plagued our constitution is concerned.
Right, thank you very much, Audu Ishak, for your comments on this. Our time is nearly up. We have just 9 minutes to wrap up. We would maybe briefly speak on the any of the two topics. Shall we look at the fact that the Supreme Court one, where the Chief Justice is actually saying that, look, there are a backlog of cases in the Supreme Court, over 500 of them actually. So we need more judges there to deal with the issues I mean, the issues that are facing our courts. I would Ishak briefly, just 2 minutes here.
Human resource practitioners will tell you that efficiency doesn't just lie in numbers. No. It is not because of the lack of numbers that there's a huge backlog of cases at the Supreme Court. You understand? I'm not sure that the cases in Ghana that go to the Supreme Court are more than those cases that go to the Supreme Court in the UK or in the US. You understand? But they have far less judges as far as the Supreme Court is concerned. They have much bigger populations as compared to the Ghanaian population. So invariably, you would expect that they will be dealing with more cases than we deal. But the US, for instance, has only 9 judges at the Supreme Court. Why does Ghana need more than 9 judges? Currently, I think we have about 15 or so judges at the Supreme Court. That for me is untenable, and we must not support. And that also takes us back to the issue of constitutional review. We need to look at some of these things as far as our constitution is concerned. We should have a cap on the number of justices that can be appointed to the Supreme Court. Because whether we like it or not, all of these have attendant financial consequences. These are people who retire on their salaries. That the state would have to take care of them until they die and all of that. And so if you look at our resource basket and the kind of things that our people expect from us, the kind of suffering that people are going through, and the kind of other expenses that we have to incur as a state, nobody should tell you that even as a president, you consciously, even impliedly, you should know that I do not have to burden the state coffers anymore. But you have a president that doesn't care about it. And I want to believe, with all due respect to the Chief Justice, that the Chief Justice is being pushed. And if she doesn't take time, she will be used to perpetuate somebody's political agenda.
Right, thank you very much. Dr. Ramsey.
Yes, my brother just brought out the gospel according to St. Alan. And of course, he has touched on what has been imprinted in the Great Transformational Plan, specifically the governance cluster of the GTP. And it is stipulated under that cluster that we need to put a cap on the number of judges that we have in the Supreme Court, right? And of course, we need to also improve on the current infrastructure of the judiciary and also support them with some form of technology to be able to enhance their efficiency. Because it's not about the numbers, but of course, how best they can use tools to enhance their efficiency to deliver justice to the people of Ghana. And so we are of the view that there should be a cap on their numbers. And of course, in the coming months, we would give more updates on that. And this is in line with the vision of Honorable Alan Kojo-Tramante to ensure that we have a constitutional review. Because all this is flaws in the constitution of the Republic of Ghana. And bless, the current appointment of judges at the Supreme Court is also a bone of contention that we need to review our constitution for. You realize that any president that comes brings, and is alleged that there is some form of political interference in the appointment of Supreme Court judges. And that's why President Mahama yesterday, when I listened to him, he said that he was alleged to say that he is also going to pack the Supreme Court with pro-NDC judges, because Akufo-Addo and Bawumia are packing the Supreme Court with pro-MPP judges. But of course, justice has no political colors. And it is definitely true that the processes in selecting a Supreme Court judge is coupled with some form of partisan affiliation. And we need to do away with that. And the only way we can do away with that is if we have adequate constitutional reform stipulated and promised by the Honorable Alan Kojo-Tramante if Ghanaians give him the nod. And that is the only way we can cure this syndrome of politicizing everything in the different various arms of government. And we hope that Ghanaians will give us a nod, because we are the only political polity that has shown the how factor on how we would deliver that adequate governance to the people of Ghana. That these two figures have been known. And I keep on saying it time and time again. President Mahama has been president before. If indeed he has that absolute solution to bring about development, that sustainable development of the people of Ghana, he would have done it. But of course, it's the same sloganeering and political gimmick that we see time and time again. That the MPP and the NDC have enjoyed 16 years each, and we've not seen any serious development in this country. If you go out in the streets of Accra today, you realize that I can tell you, if you interview 10 young people, all of them have lost hope in this country.
Right.
And we don't see these two dominant parties reinstating that hope of the Ghanaian, except the leadership and the candidature of Honorable Alan Kojo Tramante.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramsey. I give you 2 minutes. You spoke for 4. Honorable.
Well, I think that it's common knowledge that the appointment process is being abused. And I go entirely with what Awudu has said in terms of let's not mix efficiency with numbers. If you don't have an efficient system to deal with your court cases, look at that first and then come and explain why the court numbers need to be increased. And even if they have to be increased, do it in a manner where everybody, you're 5 months to an election. This is why the general leader can say, but why now all of a sudden you have to add another 5 straight away. In fact, the way they are going to do it, if you're not careful, you have 21, not even 20. So it creates a problem. And this has been in from the time when Kufuor added 2 judges to the Supreme Court panel to get a desired result against the fast-track court system, where the initial decision had become 5-4, and he added 2 to make it 6-5. So there is a historical basis of the MPP who have a tendency to always load the courts when things are not going in their favor. And we are seeing it now in a more blatant fashion, and even in an unconstitutional fashion, because it's not the Chief Justice who should be recommending. It should come from the President, and then she sitting on the panel can look at it. Now all of a sudden everybody is coming out to defend the position, which means they are still even thinking of doing it. And that is the fear. Why are they going to go against what everybody says is wrong and try to impanel judges in the way that they are trying to do? There are different ways of dealing with it, and they should deal with it in the more succinct way, which is let's have a full review of the number of judges available. And I don't think that with us having 15 Supreme Court judges, there should be an issue. There's nothing stopping 5 from sitting there. 7 can sit, 9 can sit, 11 can sit. You leave the 11, and that is at the review stage. So you always have a backup of 3 or 4. But nothing doesn't say 5 judges. Once you have an odd number, not normally 3, but 5 can sit on the case, or 7, you are good to go. So I'm lost as to why all of a sudden it has dawned upon us that after all, we have increased the number of Court of Appeal judges. We've increased the number of judges in the High Court. So you'll be hoping that a lot of those cases will be dealt with now at the lower courts, and there will be a reduction in the pressure that is coming, and they won't take that long because people are now in a position to do it. So I don't think the just off the cuff saying, oh, we are overwhelmed is good enough. I think they have to do a little bit more on that front. And I just want to point out to my colleague, Alan Tramante is not new to Ghana politics. Let's all understand that. He was almost a presidential candidate for the New Patriotic Party. So he's not new to politics. He's been in the game a long time. So he's not, and most of the stuff he's talking about, even this constitutional, it was in our 2020 manifesto, it was in our 2016 manifesto. This is not a new thought. How are you going to do it is the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Our time is up. We need to say goodbye. Thank you, Honorable Segbefia, for your time this morning. To the scores of you watched on YouTube, I fail to acknowledge you, but so much of you watched on YouTube, even more than Facebook. We are extremely grateful for your time this morning. Abdurrahman Nelson, Africa Home, Livingston, Michael Kofi, Cynthia Clote, Mutala Ibrahim, AB, Samsudus, all of you who did the watching on YouTube. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Dr. Ramsey Yunusa. Thank you, Awudu Ishak, and to all our cherished viewers across the globe. It's been a pleasure. My name is ALORMASOR. I sat in for Kwame Osudan. So do have a pleasant week. Bye-bye.